Hello everyone, thanks for joining me here today on YouTube. My name is Alexandra and this is a tutorial for LLLC Crafts design team. I'm going to show you how to create a shatter card using some of the LLLC Crafts products, and I have an example of the shatter card here on my table. This is the card that I created some time ago using other products from LLLC Crafts. And this is how the shutter card works. I used magnets to keep my shutter card closed, but I'm sure that if you saw some of these cards online, you might have noticed that they have different kinds of closures. So there are different designs, and today I'm just going to show you one of them. So for my today's project, I will be using one of the recently released clear stamp sets from LLLC Crafts, and this one is called Chihuahua. They are absolutely adorable. Like, every release has of course our favorites, so this is my favorite from the recent release, and I have also colored the sombrero hat. So that's the image that I'm going to use. Then I'm also going to use some of the background stamps for making my own pattern papers for the card. So the first stamp set is going to be just for you, and I think it's very versatile. You can use it on so many cards, and I like the fact that the background stamps come with some additional stamps to allow you to make a card even without anything else, just this one single stamp set. So the second background stamp that I'm going to use is called Your Kindness, and it's another really great one with absolutely beautiful roses and some sentiments to go with the roses. Okay, so background stamps, clear stamp. I will just use a little piece of the pattern paper to complete my card, and that's the piece. It's from the new paper pack, which is called Asian Fusion. And just to give you a taste of these papers, I will quickly flip through them. There are some really beautiful floral designs, and these are the back sides of the papers. Okay, so let's move to the dies that we're going to use today. So from the basic shapes, I will be using this a postage stamp die, and this is the second largest from the set. I will be listing all the links in the description down below, so you're welcome to check it at any time. And I will also be using this third largest from the stitched circles set. Okay, then I will be using this Fiesta word die for cutting the chili peppers. Besides the Fiesta word die, I will also be using guacamole bowl and chips die and the taco die with the lettuce. Alright, so I think that's it for the dies, stamps, and papers. Now let me move all of this aside and take you through the sizes of the papers that we are going to use for creating the card. Here we go. So for the base of our card, we will need a piece of cardstock measuring 8.5 inches by 5.5, and on the long side, which is 8.5 inches, we will score it at 2 1/8 and 6 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so I have already done that. So what's left is just to fold the sides like this, And I will use my bone folder just to reinforce those score lines. Okay, next we will need, for the center of the card, the one with the circle in it, we will need a piece of cardstock. It has to measure 6.5 inches by 3.25. And on the long side, you have to score it at 1/2 inch and at 6 inches. And of course, you will fold those in. We'll reinforce the score lines. Okay, so for some other cardstock pieces, you will need two measuring 3.5 by 3.25, and you will score them at 1/2 inch on the 3.5 inch side, just like this. And another piece that you're going to use will be 3 by 4. No scoring needed on this one. All right, now I have already stamped a few paper pieces using the background stamps that I showed you before. And sometimes I know people can have difficulties with getting good impression from the background stamps, even when using different stamping platforms. So I just want to show you what is the easiest way of getting a good impression with the background stamps. So I have a piece of paper which is slightly smaller than this piece that I have for the part with the circle in it. So this piece measures 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to stamp this piece using the Just For You background stamp. And I'm looking for my blue ink because that's the color that I was going to use. So I'm just making sure that the stamp is clean. Okay, and I will apply. I'm not even bothered with these other stamps, which are on this plastic sheet, and this plastic comes with your stamp. It's a very sturdy plastic, and I'm keeping all of my background stamps on these sheets and then in a plastic tray. So I am not going to take the stamp off this plastic sheet. I'm just going to ink my stamp. So I'm making sure that I have all the surface inked. Sorry for some shaking. Okay, so this piece, it's good that it's actually going to be in the borders of our background stamp. And I have those guidelines that will help me position the paper straight in here. So I'm just slowly and carefully placing the paper down on the background stamp. And then I'm just going to take some printing paper. It's just a piece that my kids were going to color. Okay, so I'm placing it on top of my background stamp and my paper piece, and just running my hands over the stamp and the paper, making sure that I'm pressing down a little bit, and as you can see, the ink started to transfer to paper, so we're doing good. This paper is thin, so I can see the ink. Okay, so I can take this aside, and now I have to carefully pick up the paper, and that's the impression that we received. So there are some like tiny dots of blue. That's because I probably did not clean the stamp good enough, or maybe it's just some particles of dust or whatever, but overall the impression is really perfect. And these are some other pieces that I created using another stamp and some other colors of the ink. But yeah, so that's for that. Let's glue this piece down now to our piece of cardstock with the folds on top and at the bottom. Okay, now it's glued together. Then I'm going to just to take my card base and to eyeball where exactly I want the opening for that cheddar to be. So I think I will cut the circle somewhere here, not too close to the top and also not in the center, somewhere here. When you are die cutting, you will have to die cut now through these two layers. So when you're placing the circle on your paper, just make sure that it's centered from the right and the left hand side. Okay, so let me cut this using my Big Shot. Let's see what we have. Okay, perfect. One piece is ready. Okay, so I can now center it between the two folds and glue it down to the top part of my card base. And it's done. Okay, this is what we have so far. Now let's move to the 3.5 by 3.25 inch pieces. So we will mat them with either designer papers or, in my case, stamped paper pieces. We will cut those triangles to get the opening in the center, and for the sake of the measurements that I'm providing you with, you will need a piece of some scrap paper, which is 1.5 by 3.25. So you will just fold it in half like so, and then you will either draw a line first from corner to corner, from one corner to the opposite corner, like so, and you will use scissors to cut it like that. So 2 triangles, which are single ones, you will just discard. And we need this piece. You will align it really flush with the edge of the cardstock, which doesn't have the score line, and you will use your pencil to outline the shape. Okay, you will do this on both pieces, just like so. Super easy, just try to be precise. Now you will use your scissors and you will cut the outlined shapes out. Okay, here I have to. Let's fold the flaps now. Okay, so this is what we'll have once complete. Now for matting these pieces with the designer paper, the sizes of the papers that you're going to need are 2 3/4 by 3 1/8. Okay, so these will go in here, and to cut the openings in them, the easiest way, in my opinion, is to put the designer paper piece on top of the cardstock. And since it's going to be a little bit smaller, just make sure that you are centering it from the right and left hand side. And then you will bring it flush with those tiny corners. Okay, you will flip the paper to the back and you will mark this point here in the very corner. Okay, you can also draw the lines if it's easier for you to cut from the corners of the paper to that point that you marked. Okay, so I am going to cut the triangles out, and once I have one paper piece ready, I don't have to measure it again. I will just use this paper piece as my guide and as my template. Okay, and I will cut the opening out here as well. Okay, so now let's just make sure that it fits, and it does. So let's just glue these pieces down. Okay, so here we go. We have them both here. Let's decide now where exactly we want them to be attached to the base of the card. They of course need to be at the area of that round opening. Okay, they will not be here. They will not be very close to the top of your card. They will have to be somewhere here. So once I have one placed in the correct spot, I will move it very close to the fold line, but I will not overlap the fold line with my cardstock piece. Okay, so while holding it tight like that, I will apply glue to the fold section, and I will close my card on this side. Okay, now this piece is done. Now to attach the second piece, we'll do the same thing, and we will just align it with the piece which is already attached to our card, making sure that on this side again we're not overlapping the score line and the fold with the cardstock piece. Okay, let's make sure that it's all glued down nicely. Okay, so our card closes and everything seems to work. So we are right on track. Now for embellishing the inner section of the opening, I am going to use that same paper piece that we die cut from the circle. And I'm thinking that I might just rotate it somehow differently, maybe like this. Yeah, maybe like this. Yeah, so I will attach it to the base of my card, And then I'm going to stamp a sentiment here in the center, the one which says muchas gracias, and I will use the archival ink for stamping it. Okay, you can, guys, use any image that you want on this central area. Okay, perfect. So we have that. Now let's fold the sides in, and it's time to glue this flap. Okay, so I'm just applying some glue and pressing it down. Okay, so far so good. Now for the front of our card, this large rectangle, we will have it ready. I will attach my pattern paper to the left flap of the card, and the right flap I'm not going to cover with the designer paper before I attach a magnet there. Okay, so don't forget about that. Okay, I'm going to glue my paper on the left side. Okay, now I have the magnets here, and they are very thin, maybe 1 millimeter in thickness, or like around, let me tell you, around, well, even less than 1/16 of an inch. Okay, so where I want it to be, let's see. So what I'm doing now is I am taking the base of that front piece and kind of just positioning it on top of my card to understand where exactly my magnet needs to be. Okay, so I think somewhere here is fine. Okay, so I will take just a piece of score tape, just a tiny one, double-sided score tape, and I will attach it here. I will put my magnet on top of it, and sometimes I actually run another strip of score tape on top of the magnet just to make sure that it stays in place. Okay, so now I will cover this piece with my designer paper, or so-called designer paper, because I use the background stamps for creating mine, if you remember, but I'm still calling it designer paper. Okay. So let's glue this piece down like that. Okay, perfect. Now I will take my second magnet and I will just pop that in there. And I will glue a tiny piece of score tape right to the magnet There, okay. Now I will take the backing of the score tape, and you can use glue dots as well. I will apply glue now to the back of my central piece, and I will just make sure that I cover a little bit less than half of the back of this paper piece. Okay, so our magnet is there, and I'm just making sure that I am positioning the paper piece the way I want it to be on my card. Okay, and voila, it's ready. And what's left is only to glue our second paper piece to the right panel on the front of our card. And let's run another strip of score tape here, as we did before. Okay. And let's make sure that it works, and it does. Great. Now the fun part is left, and it's embellishing the rest. That's it for today, and here is the card that we've created alongside the previous one that I showed you as an example. I think both of the cards look really nice, and I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. We will be happy to see your creations in the LLLC Crafts Facebook group. You will find the link to that in the description box down below for this video. So Please make sure to check it out. And if you have any questions, guys, also ask them in the comments section below. I will be glad to help you in case you have any troubles. Thank you again for staying with me, and bye. See you soon.